Welcome to In the Moment with Kortia, where we inform, inspire, and motivate you to be a positive agent of change. Good morning on this terrific Tuesday. And I want to send a shout out to all of Central Louisiana and the surrounding areas. That's Natchitoches, Gina, Alexandria at 88.1 FM. Monroe, West Monroe on 98.9 FM. Shreveport, Greenwood, 92.5 FM. St. Joseph, Natchez, Mississippi at 99.3 FM. And Lake Charles at 100.1 FM. I tell you, God is moving and doing some things on this year. Wow, just to say, it's almost as if he has you on, that's just speaking for me and my family, has us on a need-to-know basis because, wow, I almost feel like I'm a secret agent in how God is doing some things and how he's just giving us those like little packets of information or those little devices, almost like a Mission Impossible type deal, to where he's like, hey, I'm just going to give you the info that you need to just go ahead and start the beginning portion of your mission, and then, I'll fill you in along the way. And joining us on the microphone is the spectacular Jennifer Kuzan.
Good morning.
Good morning, babe. Good morning. And, in saying that, it's funny and how, just in our daily prayer, when we're praying, when we're coming into the studio in the mornings, and how, God likes to drop those little nuggets into our spirit. And a lot of times,
doesn't he though?
a lot of times those nuggets that we get make no sense whatsoever.
And sometimes they're just not little.
Wow. It's like you're expecting God to give you like that little nugget where you can like fit it in the palm of your hand. But then you look up and it's almost like you look up and he's got this boulder coming out of the air and you're like, oh my Lord, right? How am I going to catch this thing, right?
Every morning.
But you see, every morning, that's good. But how does that actually go into play with what we're going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about stepping out into the unknown, okay? If you haven't actually realized that, is that every time God actually taps you on the shoulder, God speaks to you in your spirit, whatever it may be, he's causing you to step out into the unknown, step out into what is actually not familiar with you. Because why? It's all according to where he's actually taking you, where he's actually guiding you. Where, I'm going to just put it this way, where he needs you to be, okay? And I know some of you may not have even thought of it or looked at it in that sense before. Because until that revelation hit me, I kept thinking about God. Okay, you got us going here, you got us going there. You get these new skills, that new skills. Wow. I literally got one point in time in my life, are you just trying to really just stress us out or something like that? And then, it's basically God had to revelate to me, that's where I need you to be to make maximum impact for what I've called you to do.
Right.
And so many of us actually miss that. And in the getting the maximum impact that God wants us to actually have, it's stepping out into the unknown. And I'm sure you can agree with this, is that some people, including us, okay, to where, we regularly actually come to places in our lives, just like now, to where we've never been there before.
Never been there before. I'm gonna be David, and I'm gonna be a parrot, and I'm gonna say, never been there before.
And then, we really are, when God brings us to places where we've never been before, okay, you get your inexperience in that particular area, and what do you have a tendency to do? You have that tendency to what? Try to, as I like to say, you want to crawfish your way, move back into what's actually familiar to you, that comfort zone.
Right.
All right? But the thing is that I see what God's been doing with us, on this season, when we've actually said, okay, I can see now how God is in the midst of all of this. He's always been in the midst, but now we just really see how he's been in the midst, right?
Really?
To where it's almost like, ooh, okay, I've got this tendency, I need to go ahead and backtrack, crawfish out of this, right? And then all of a sudden you try to go back and the door just got slammed behind you. You don't have a key. You don't have a screwdriver to take it off the hinges. You don't have anything. It's just like God's like, okay, well, you can't go back. So I guess what? There's only one way you can go, is that's go forward. So
jump out the boat.
Oh, look, jump out the boat. Man, if you never got a clear understanding of the faith it took Peter to get out of that boat, wow. We definitely have a clear understanding of what Peter went through to get out of that boat and how he had to keep his eyes on Jesus through the entire process. with the storms and everything around.
You know, the analogy or the thing that I was thinking about this morning that had to do with that, because it started out when you had told me what the topic was going to be, which I still have no clue what you have in your notes. But the thing that I was thinking about, obviously, was Peter and stepping out that boat.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was, as we were on the way over here and I was praying, it was more of a, you know, I don't remember where this came from, but are you willing to fall? You know,
Yeah,
are you
that's
willing
good.
just to jump
That's good.
and let me handle everything from there?
That's good.
And that's kind of where I was this morning in prayer, was just, are you willing to jump and let me take care of everything?
That's good. That's good. That,
And not worry about falling, not worry about, you know, where you're going. Are you just willing to jump?
that leap of faith.
Yes.
I mean, definitely that leap of faith. And I mean, like I said, sometimes you definitely get to certain areas in your life where you're like really, you know, inexperienced. I mean, I can definitely say right now, you know, wholeheartedly, and people don't know the insides, you know, they don't need to know the insides, but everything that's going on with the OPT family, everything is new ground. Okay, it really, really is new ground. And you know, it's so much so to where, you know, you can look at things that happen, you know, from one facet for all the programming, the television, the radio, everything that's going on. And, you know, on the outside, you know, people are like, wow, look at how God's just moving. But on the inside, we're saying the same thing. Wow, look at how God's just moving. So
it's amazing how two views saying the same thing can mean totally different
things. That's right. It's a matter of perspective. And, you know, and how, see, that's what I like. You know, it kind of goes back to when you're stepping into this unknown. You know, one of the first things that we heard, what's that old religious expression? Sometimes the only Bible someone will ever read is your life. Okay, all right. So the thing is that a lot of people will look on the outside and they'll see you, and I hear it all the time when we come up against people. Oh, man, everything that's going on.
You must not have been listening in church this weekend.
What's that?
Because Pastor Greg said that was right out the Bible.
Sure.
You said it was an old religious expression.
What?
It's right out the Bible.
And as she puts on her Pastor Greg imitation over here, need a little bit more bass, baby. A little bit more bass right there.
I can't get that much bass.
But look, the thing is this, is that, you know, even with that, is that when God is doing a certain thing with you as you're stepping out into the unknown, okay, we could think that, oh, my Lord, you've got one hand as far as like to pull your hair out. You're checking your blood pressure on the other side. I mean, whatever it may be, you're like, oh, my Lord, what is really going on? And to you, it may just seem like nothing's making sense. It just seems like you're in an orderly chaos, if that makes any kind of sense, okay? You know.
You're asking the wrong person that.
It's almost like you're in this orderly kind of chaos, not a chaos that's in the world where it seems like everything's spinning out of control, but it seems like all the things of God, you're just in this whirlwind that's just going on, which is actually a really good thing if you didn't know. But the thing is that you see it one way, but on the outside, people just look at you, wow, they really have it all together. Look at how God's just moving in their life. And you wanted to look at somebody and say, who are you looking at? Are you looking at this?
We are not seeing the same thing.
But, you know, it's funny how God can even use your life when you think it's just spinning out of control.
That's right.
And it just reaches and it just speaks to someone. And it's really something that'll grab them to say, oh, hey, maybe I can step into the unknown.
That's
you know?
right.
And, you know, it with us, examples of what people have done in their lives have caused us to step out in faith. I mean, because trust me, it wasn't just that we woke up one day, hey, God, we're going to just step out in faith because, wow, we've got it in us. No, we had to have real life examples in us. And I mean, it wasn't that God said one person, two people, three people. I mean, it's what
we had to stretch what he gave us.
Oh, man, did we have to stretch? We definitely had to stretch in a whole lot of areas as far as like what he gave us.
Yeah.
And I think the way he stretched us out the most was those unlikely sources. I mean, and that's even today. You tell me how God's going to bring somebody, just as an example, not going to get into it, tell you when you have like a financial need or something, all of a sudden you pray to God and not 2 minutes later, some guy just pops up out the blue on the side of you. Hey, could you take me over here? And then all of a sudden that's like 20 miles away. And not only do you provide for gas, something in the house, bills paid and stuff like that, But that's the way God does things. When you step out into an unknown realm, out of your comfort zone.
Oh, well, let's just think about him bringing somebody from California to Louisiana to drop off $1,000.
That was more than
and turn around and walk away.
It was just, really. Praying, and you got a need. It's Friday. It needs to be done on Monday. You pray. You got to go somewhere, and all of a sudden, you get a phone call. Hey, I'm in town. Just all of a sudden. And then this person, first thing they want to do, hey, take me to the bank. I want to go ahead and get something for kids and everything like that. Something for the kids they give them. And next thing you know, they break you off a little knot. I'm like, wow. I never saw that coming,
Well, we could roll call that. We could go down the roll. The line
absolutely.
Of ways that God has just provided a way out of no way when we were stepping out into the unknown.
Stepping out into the unknown, and how do you get the feeling when you step out in faith with God and God tells you to do something? You step out into the unknown, and God has someone contact you through a text message and say they got a blessing from you. Somebody you don't even talk to about these different things. But that's what God's just wanting you to do, like my wife said, when you just step out in faith into the unknown and how he already has things provided for you. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on this terrific Tuesday. Hey, we talking about stepping out into the unknown. And my producer wife just let me know, hey, you didn't actually close out and stuff. I was like, well, look, I know that right now you're on the edge of your seat. You're definitely tuned in as you're driving in, as you're brushing your teeth, whatever you're doing right now. I know that God's keeping you right there in your moment because, wow, I tell you, on this day, if it hasn't happened yet on this year, on this day, God's going to rock you out of that comfort zone to get you to actually walk into what he has planned for you. Because what? The unknown isn't something, it's going to sound strange to you. And I'm going to make this comment very boldly. The unknown shouldn't be something you should actually fear. Okay? Especially when it comes from God, it shouldn't be something you should fear. And as my wife looks at me with that old smirk on that smirk on her face, okay? What you got? Because it's something about
No. Fear is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the spirits that are just running rampant now.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm gonna take it back several months ago, almost 6 months ago, when I made a major step in my life.
Oh yeah. Huh?
And it took a lot of praise, and it took a lot of songs and reading that helped me to get over the fear to take that major step, that major life change for me, which was something I was holding on to and did not want to let go of.
Right.
So fear is something, and that was, I was trying to think of the other thing. I had several things that came to me this morning when we were praying. And the other thing had to do with fear.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something I wanted to bring out. I'm so glad I remembered.
You heard it here, folks, on In the Moment with Kortia.
I remembered.
My wife remembered something.
No, it had to do with, we all go through life changes. We all go through, stepping out on faith. We all go through the unknown. And we start to have these doubts, and we start to have fear creep in, and we start to have all these thoughts that hit us. And the thing I wanted to bring out, when you reach that point in your life, when you've gotten to that point where the negative is starting to bombard you, you have to remember that if it is the will of God, those things are gonna happen, because Satan does not want you to step into what God has for you. So fear is going to creep in. It's going to try and creep in. When you're rooted and grounded in the Word, when you're rooted and grounded and you're listening to God, He'll give you that peace to get through those things. But it's really important to know not to give up, because Satan is going to try and give you every reason to not do what God has told you to do.
Very true. Very, very true. And believe me, he's going to give you a plethora of reasons, okay? A multitude.
He sure will, because I was there this morning.
I mean, just reason after reason after reason, let me rephrase that. Excuse after excuse after excuse. And this is when you know something's from God. It's funny you said that, so I guess he was giving you part and then giving me part, right? So God gave me like an example to use according to what my wife said. Now, some of you, that are like more mature are going to know what I'm talking about, and then some of you are going to be like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But there was an old TV show, that was, and when I started watching it was in the rerun phase, okay? And this was past 40 years ago. And there's this old television show that was called Lost in Space, all right? Now, some of you that remember this, there was this doctor on there, cowardly doctor. No matter what happened, if he got started sneezing, oh, I'm about to come down with something, I'm getting sick and all of this, then you had this robot that no matter what happened, I mean, it could have been a bug got on the spaceship. He'd be like, danger, danger, danger. And then all of a sudden they had this little boy that made the robot always say danger, 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 because he was always getting into something, right? So God was actually showing me that, look, this is how Satan works with so many of his people. He can have somebody like the doctor that's right there telling you exactly what's going to happen to you if you step into the unknown about you're going to get sick, you're going to get hurt, you may lose your life, you may lose your wife, you may lose your husband, finances, whatever it is. He's going to try to paint every little negative picture like my wife's been telling you. But then when you say, okay, I'm not going to listen to that, then you've got that robot coming up to you in your face and won't move. Danger, danger, danger. Okay, don't go this way.
Wait, I like those hands. Do
What,
that
you see
again?
that? Danger, danger. Hey, I used to like that little robot. It made me laugh when I actually saw her. But the thing with that is that a lot of people take that as being from God when stepping out into the unknown. But just like this, let me tell you exactly when something's from God, okay? This is what I can say definitely happens with us in our life right now and how he's been trying to guide us. And God brought this back to me when I was getting these notes and everything together. Well, you know how God actually called me into ministry and stuff was through Joshua. Yeah, that was something right there. I mean, man, look, when God wants to make a point with you, God ain't going to let you sleep, do anything. He was like, get up, I got something to tell you. That's just how he does it.
So you read Joshua, chapter 1 for about 4 months?
No, it was, I don't know, it was like at least 3, look, specifically, it was 3 nights in a row. God woke me up at 1 o'clock in the morning, told me to go into the living room, read Joshua chapter 1. So I got up, and on the 4th morning, I'm like, man, look, I literally said this, God, I am tired. I have got to go to work in like 2 hours or however it was. And then I literally took that Bible, and I'm being real with y'all, and slung it on the sofa. This is when I was just starting my walk with the Lord, right? I did.
You threw the word?
Look, I did. I'm being real. Threw it on the sofa, and guess what happened? The Bible opened up to Joshua chapter 1.
Even in your frustration?
Even in my frustration. And I'm like, okay, God, you must be missing it, right? You want me to do what? And then all of a sudden, I go to work and get home later that day, and our spiritual mother calls us and says, brother, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, could you meet me at the church? I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she's like, we're going to go to Joshua chapter 1 first. I was like, you got to be kidding me with this. So, but look, that's how God is letting you know when he's in the midst of something. And since that, just think about that with Joshua, since we are talking about Joshua. Moses has passed away, right? Moses has passed away. It wasn't that he said, Joshua, I might need you to consider this and go, do this. Joshua.
We would love it if that were the case.
Yeah, I would love that. But you know something? I tell people all the time, if you actually did what Jesus said, Lord, not my will, but thy will, you don't have any
no say whatsoever.
No say. If you have ever said that in your life, Lord, not my will, but thy will, and if you literally have accepted Christ your Lord and Savior, just get on the side and say, okay, God, where you want me to go? That's all you need to do. What you want me to do? Because you don't have any real
that
choice.
Goes with that leap that we were talking about.
Exactly. Even in that's faith that you have to take to accept God. But I mean, can you imagine Joshua, God telling him, okay, now it's time for you to step up and lead this people. Now, we weren't talking about a little meeting room full of people, a couple hundred, whatever, estimates like 2 to 3 million people, all right? Talking about, okay, now it's time for you to step up and lead this people. Now, I don't know about you, But that's that expression about kicking against the goals, kicking against the pricks. I think I would have been a little complaining and whiny a little bit up in there myself. I'm just saying me. And my wife, she's not saying it, but if you can see her facial expression, she's touching and agreeing on that one.
That's because y'all have to know me.
But I mean, how do you imagine how he felt, when God said, that Moses died and then he told him he was going to take over and lead Israel into the promised land? Well, put yourself in that same sense. How do you feel right now that you're that one person in your family to where you're going to be the difference maker, to where God is saying, get up from this lack, get up from this low self-esteem, get up from all of these things that have been holding your family down, alcoholism, drug addiction, whoremongering, whatever it is. Get up and get ready to lead your family out of all this. I mean, how many people are willing to right now get up and actually stand up because God actually tapped them on the shoulder and said, something, you're going to be the one. And I actually asked God when he told me that about me and my family, not just my immediate family, but my overall family. I'm like, well, why would you do that? And it came back, and I just on this year caught what we shared before when Elder Brumfield came into the church, and when he said something to where he just came in, delivered that message, and we shared this, and he just said, God says he trusts you. And he turned around and walked out. God said that word that I said then stands right now. And when God is telling you to step out into the unknown, it's not that he's just trying to get you just to get out of your comfort zone, just to get out of your comfort zone. If God is calling you to get out of that comfort zone and step into the unknown, that's because he trusts you. He trusts you. So guess what? Right now, as you're in your moment, he's wanting you to trust yourself because you have everything that's necessary on the inside of you. And look, we're definitely going to get right back on into this, so stay in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on a terrific Thursday. And look, it's feeling ultra terrific up in the studio on today. Wow, God is really touching you right now in your moment as you're stepping out in what? The unknown. Because what? The unknown, like we said before, should not be considered a fearful place. Now, in the realm of if you're doing things as far as like, professionally or personally, yes. Does it take some time? You need to step back to assess the situation, let God show you some steps that you may need to do beforehand before you really jump into a pursuit? Absolutely. I mean, what in the realm of business, you just can't go out there and say, hey, I'm going to go open a restaurant. You go rent this place and start cooking food, and then a health board or something comes in and you don't have a license for food, certified food, you don't have an LLC or something. Okay, those are some common sense things, or I should hope there should be some common sense things that people need to know about, before getting into, that type of business. But, God just lets you know that once you've done your part, okay, and yes, whether you realize it or not, there is a certain portion of something that you're going to have to do, okay? Yes.
Work.
You said work. You said work?
Did I say work?
You said work on air?
You got to work.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I go to work.
Oh, gosh.
Look, it does require a certain amount of work, okay? And, just before, we came back up from break, my wife, she mentioned something, and we just want to let y'all know this, okay? There's some of you right now, okay, you're saying, okay, Lord, should I jump? Should I just jump into this unknown? And, I mean, God's just like, well, I kind of told you, you don't go ahead and jump. I'm kind of like right here. But you're still saying, God, should I jump? But the thing is that I don't believe that people are hung up on the jumping aspect of it as much as on the process portion of it. Yes, I said it, folks, process.
You had shared with me what Steve Harvey had said about jumping off a cliff.
Right.
Why don't you share that?
Well, I know some people are familiar with it, but, it was the one thing I heard that stuck out to me when I saw one of his broadcasts. I mean, like I said before, I'm always either reading something, listening. I'm always getting something that's like encouraging, pumping myself up, letting me know whatever. I have some type of whatever, feeding my spirit all the time. So, I actually just came across this, and it was just like he used this like analogy of jumping off of a cliff. And he's just like, you know something, they got people all around talking about they want this better life. They want all of this to happen in their lives. You know, everybody said, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. But not everybody's willing to say, what I'm going to be able to do something for it, right? So he basically said, you know, you can be safe all your life, and stay on the end of that cliff. You can lead your life how it is. You can do the same thing that you do in life, and that's fine. And God's not going to force you. He's going to let you have that, what you expect and what you want. But he said, what happens when you see these people that you never thought they were going to amount to anything, and all of a sudden you see them progressing in life? And you might say, well, how is that? He said, because those people, they were standing on that same cliff with you, and then they decided to jump. But he says, I'm going to let you know something. When you decide to jump, you're going to go down and your parachute is not going to open. You're going to scrape yourself on the cliff. You're going to bruise yourself. You're going to get bloodied. But then guess what? Right when you think you can't take any more, that's when it seems like you're going to fall that much faster. But then in the whole meantime, when you're about to give up, you're going to hear like this still small voice on the inside of you talking about, just trust in me. Just trust in me. And just like I was telling my wife, just when you seem like you're at the point of breaking, you're going to turn around and then all of a sudden that parachute is just going to open up. But that's all God wants, okay, is he wants you to take that leap of faith to jump. And you might say, well, where am I going to end up when the parachute opens? You're going to look right down below you, and you're going to land on a target God already had prepared for you. And look, I would love to tell you that as you go through this process, okay, that everything is going to be great. I'm going to follow God, and it's just going to be streamlined, and nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be great. I'm not going to lie to you like that, okay? I am not going to lie. You know, some of you listening to us right now, man, they've got, you know, in the television and the radio, they got these things going on, things blessed with the family, kids, all these different things. But see, just like my wife brought back to my remembrance when we were on break, this has been a 20-year process for us. This was not an overnight thing. And I tell people all the time, are you willing to wait for God's plan to actually be perfected in your life? I mean, would you have actually seen yourself that, you know, that the 20 years would have been taking us up to this point, and literally now I feel like we just really getting started?
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean,
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and you know, you're like, wow, just getting started. You mean I have to wait 20 years? If you don't line up with God's plan and purpose for your life, you're going to have to wait 20 years, if not longer. But that's the thing.
You kick against the goats.
Oh, man, that's it. See, we didn't realize, you know, we were like the whole time, I would have to say the better part of our walk with Christ, we kept saying, waiting on you, Lord. Waiting on you, Lord. You know, it's like, okay, waiting on you, Lord. That seemed like that was our like catchphrase, you know. If we had business cards, they probably said, waiting on you, Lord, going across the top of it.
Until one day it finally clicked.
Yeah.
No, I'm waiting on you.
That's it. That's it. And, you know, it took, just like what God did with Abraham, okay? It took God saying, separate yourself, you know, from what you know, from your family, from those things that are familiar to you. And I'm not telling you, hey, I'm jumping ship and I'm abandoning family. Don't even say the devil is a lie. I'm not saying that.
No, that's not.
But what I am saying is that if God is telling you to separate yourself from certain things or certain individuals, then I'm going to say you need to do it. Now, we thought when we came to this area, it was for one thing. Well, immediately it was. But we saw, or should I say we see now.
We see now.
How God was using that to get us into position,
yes, to
where we are right now, to really start fast tracking what he has in store for our life. But you know, it gets to that point to where you just, and folks, I'm just going to let you know, family, look, this is recent. This is really, really recent. I'm not telling you we just came to this revelation, you know, over a decade ago. Praise be to the Lord. No, this is something within the last year. We just came to this revelation.
We still praise the Lord.
Yeah, we're still praising God. I'm praising God we finally came to the revelation.
Yes, indeed.
Because, man, I was tired of getting off on that off-ramp and going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But it was basically this, to where, say, like, you know, it's going to sound strange, but like we all have like GPSs probably on our cell phones. You know, you can listen to that GPS and God is guiding you and he's telling you where to go. But you still trying to use the old street map and it's in front of you. You're driving and you have this thing in front of your windshield. Cannot see where you're going clearly because you have your own map in front of you blocking where you're going. and you're trying to say, hey, maybe we should take this street to cut off right here, cut this street, but yet that GPS, which is God, is saying, turn here, next turn here, next turn here, rerouting. You get off track, rerouting. But then the thing is that we choose not to listen to God because why? God doesn't break down and give you any kind of details.
None.
I'm like, he don't go ahead, okay, this is step A, subsection 1, and everything like this, and this is what go. He's like, I'm going to give you A, now go. He's like, okay, God, how far? Okay, I must have missed it. Should I take something? Any money that I need to take? And you're like, okay, that's all he's going to say is just go ahead and go?
That's it?
That's it? But just like
no details?
No details. I mean, really. But just like with Abraham, just like what he's doing in each and every one of your lives right now, whether you realize it or not, is that he's just wanting you to go and trust in him. To what? Stepping out into the unknown. Because why? Like we said before, wow, if you ever catch that revelation of how he's just letting you know through that how much he trusts you, because not based upon your own talent, skill, and ability and intellect, but what he sees that he's placed on the inside of you. Because guess what? He's making a demand on that seed that's on the inside of you, and he's trying to get you to make a demand on that seed that's on the inside of you. Why? Because it's a seed that comes right from the inside of him. Oh, somebody just got caught that. That's right there on you. That seed that's on the inside of you, what he's making the demand on is that same seed that you need to be making the demand on, that blessing. Because why? He wants you to see exactly that what he can access, you have access to. So look, God's reaching and he's touching you right there already in your moment, and he's just wanting to let you know that, wow, you are definitely more than qualified to step in the unknown. Stay in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan. Hey, we're talking about stepping out into the unknown. And I tell you what, definitely God is reaching you right now in your moment and letting you know, hey, we're going to capitalize on that moment. God's just letting each and every one of us know right now that, hey, as long as we step out and actually do what he says, even when it doesn't make any sense, okay, that leap of faith we were talking about, that example that we were talking about, to where when we literally hit target of where he's actually taking us, it is definitely going to produce results that we couldn't even expect. And, for a long time, I was one of those individuals, God, how they say he'd do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think according to the power that works in you. I was just saying to myself, I said, God, does that goes to your imagination? He was like, yeah, beyond your imagination. I'm like, well, I got a pretty big imagination. He was like, yeah, I gave it to you. I'm like, no, but I got a really big imagination. He was like,
yeah, I know, I gave it to you.
Yeah, I gave it to you. And you might be saying, is he serious? No, this is really how I talk with God. Okay, this is the conversations God and I have. And then he was just like, well, what do you think? What is your greatest thought? And so I tried to start thinking of stuff, right? And he was just like, wow. That doesn't even measure the lowest thing that I could actually do in your life. And I was just like, yes, that's my daddy right there. Yeah, that's my daddy. But, even in that, at how we want to be so perfect and have everything lined up and have the details in our life, that, the power of us going into these things, or the pathway of us going into the unknown, it isn't, lined up as far as like in our perfection, but it's all based in God's plan. And we really need to see that. And I mean, one of the best examples I want to get, man, I have so much I want to actually share, but we don't even have the time. But
we have tomorrow.
Yeah, well, yeah, we definitely do. But look, this from Joyce Meyer, okay? This is a great example that I had when she first started out as far as like in television, okay? She was like, when they started out in television, they got this big meeting hall, they rented all this, they got all these different things done, right? And she said she was up there interviewing people, and she'd ask them questions, but she said for some strange reason, before they could even answer the question, I'd answer the question myself, And she said, yeah, that's what she said. And she said that after 6 months, she's like, do you realize in 6 months, we actually had one letter come into the little studio we had. One phone call that came into the studio in 6 months. But she said, God said to her, she was like, well, God, what's going on? This isn't working. You said we were going to be in television. And she said, that basically, yeah, I told you were going to be in television when I said you were going to be in television. You decided to go ahead and be in television yourself. So I wasn't in this. So he was like, okay, well, Lord, we're going to listen to your plan. He was like, well, great. And he told her, now do this. So what he did, now this is a test of faith, right? Trust him. Took them from this big roomy place to this little bitty place to where she said the ceiling was so low they had to duck down. Tiles were falling off the wall. The backdrop, she said, literally she could compare it to a shower curtain and everything.
Do not despise.
And then all of a sudden, she went up in there. She said, we had one show. Phone lines and everything were ringing off the hook. People all over the place. Everything started out. But she said, because following his plan and how things just started progressing. And it's the same thing, with each and every one of us.
Well, and I'm going to take that back. I'm so glad you brought up Joyce Myers, because on break, we were just discussing one of her books, even though we didn't actually bring up her book. And
True.
We were talking about a battlefield in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said I'm glad you brought her up.
Recommend that book very highly.
But what we were discussing, so everyone knows, is that I was telling Court that I am a detail-oriented person. I really like having all the details, all the ways. I need to know how it's going to happen every step of the way. And if I don't have that, then I start to question. I start to doubt. I start to worry.
Right.
And that is a big challenge for me. I'm learning how to get over that.
Exactly.
But that is a challenge for me that I work on, because it is a battle in my mind against my enemy, which is Satan,
mm-hmm.
who is constantly trying to throw things in my mind to make me worry, to make me step into the wrong, to sin, basically.
Right,
to worry, to get off into trying to take care of it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of having to find that still small voice, that quiet place to get to a spot where I can actually, hear God and hear God say, I have it, and not ask the questions.
And I mean, that's the whole thing, because God's just wanting you to know that you can find fulfillment in the unknown.
Right.
You can find fulfillment in the unknown. And, just like with how we look to someone to be like that close friend, someone to be that support system for us, someone just to like help us through these times that we have. That's why, how God just says he'll never leave us or forsake us, because why? He wants to be that all in all with us. And, so many people use that poem Footprints as like a guide, but I can definitely tell you this. If you ever took that poem to heart and actually realized exactly how God is really carrying you and guiding your steps, and how he's just right there each and every step of the way,
right,
you won't just step out into the unknown. You will probably even run into the unknown.
Right. I know for me, even now, even though I've taken large steps, whenever anything comes where I need to trust and believe and stay still and let God tell me what to do, I have a fight. Mm-hmm. Because Satan comes at me and he fills my mind, and I have questions. I have, questions I shouldn't even have come into my head. So,
right.
That is one spot where we need to learn, we need to trust, we need to just, believe that God said, I have it. Exactly.
And, I tell you what, I don't know about you, as far as like stepping out into the unknown, this has been one kind of a show on today, and then God's definitely reaching you right where you are. Look, if you didn't realize it, he didn't just reach you, he literally grabbed you right now in your moment, okay? Just because he loves you and has so much in store for you and wants to see so many things. So look, I just want you all to know that God loves you, we love you, and we'll see you on tomorrow as you stay in the moment. And hey, guess what? On Point Talk with Carlette Christmas. We got David Christmas and Carlette Christmas coming fast in the house. So stay in your moment, everyone. Take care.